Much for being with us tonight. Joe Roberts, you can unmute yourself, Joe. Joe Roberts is a gardener, and he's gone through the whole Master Gardeners program. He has a thing or two to say about that, I'm sure. But he's also a stonemason and a drummer, and he was a drummer on the Oprah show. He made an appearance there. And so he's very musical, creative, connected to the earth type of fella. He's been with us before. We really appreciated your advice, Joe. So we're happy to have you back. Thank you for being back with us on the Neighborhood Food Network.
Thanks.
Is this your neighbor? Is this your neighbor, Joe?
Yeah, not too far away, but
Not too far away. Yeah, he's on the other side of town. Yeah.
on the other side of the river.
Well,
Yes. Yeah.
me in Milwaukee, he's your son's neighbor.
Right.
Yeah, he's kind of my
Well,
neighbor.
hello, everybody, and I hope you've been having a good gardening season. And
It's been adventurous, right, Ann?
My
It's been
garden's a jungle,
Yeah,
so
mine too.
good. Well, yeah, it's each year is different. Each one has its own challenges. For me, it was a strange spring because we had this late freeze that really did a major whammy on all the fruit trees and all my blueberry bushes, and nothing's didn't make anything because it hit right at the wrong time. So
And then we had a very dry early part of the summer, right? There was a couple weeks there where it almost rained for maybe 2 weeks.
yeah, I mean, it's interesting to hear us say that it didn't rain for 2 weeks, and
Yeah,
in
and it's
different parts of the
Arizona.
world.
Yeah, Arizona
Yeah.
rains twice in a year. Yeah, so for those of you who have been gardening, I'm sure we've had a lot of different adventures, but there might be people on the call who haven't started gardening at all. And so we want to have this call to encourage you to start a fall garden, which may not be on your radar at all, but it is, I've heard, I think, Joe, it might have been you that told me that a fall garden is actually easier because there's not as many pests. Is that true?
Well, once you get into the colder weather, initially it could be challenging too, and that's one of the things in my list of things to do is to keep some BT. I don't know if you know BT, but BT is it's a word for Bacillus thuringiensis, and it's a type of bacteria that it's good for the caterpillar type insects that chew on the foliage, and so that comes inside their gut and does something inside the gut that causes them to die. So
and it degrades in the sunlight, so it's safe for organic gardens.
yeah,
Not the GMO type, which then can talk about that.
yeah, that's
We don't
inside
know
the
that.
cells, and that's something that they jury drigged up. And but no, this is just the having your sprayer. So what I was mentioning to Todd, saw Todd, Zen's husband, last week, and said it's time to start your seed beds for your fall garden. And I really love collards. I think collards is one of the best plants that there is. It's all in the same family as Brussels sprouts and broccoli and cauliflower and all those. And they all look very similar. But one of the things that I really like about collards is that you can eat the whole plant, and it's just, maybe I'm a Southerner. I grew up eating greens, so I like eating greens. I think that's a really healthy thing, and collards is one of the best. And so I've been working with some collards that I've been saving the seed now for, I don't know, over 5 years, maybe 7, 8. And I think I talked before about the satisfaction that you can get from saving seed and having that, raising your plants from the seeds. You save money, but you also, there's something special about that you're in relationship to that plant. That plant's also in relationship to your soil and to yourself and to your situation.
So Joe, I know kale, you can leave your kale in the ground and then the next spring they'll come up and send out flowers. Is collards like a biennial too, or you literally have to wait 2 years to get?
No, for me, it's a 1-year plant.
Okay.
And for me, I have it in the fall. Some people grow collards in the summertime, but there's too many other kind of greens that I eat in the summertime to do collards. Collards is kind of a thick, really thick, stout green. So
It's
you
like,
have to
it's
cook
kind of
it.
heavier. It's like meatier. It
Yeah,
seems to go better with fall, like root vegetables
I
and
think so.
fall things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for
I've
me
been putting
personally.
broccoli leaves in my smoothies because
Yeah. Oh, great. So, so yeah, I have I eat in the summertime. I eat poke plants, and I love poke plant. I know some people are scared of it, but I'm not. I think it's part of the spring tonic, and I like it that way. And then once the summer gets up, I actually leave lamb's quarters to grow in my garden.
I
I don't
just
know if
had
you
those
know.
tonight. They're delicious. They taste like spinach.
Yes,
Yeah.
And
yes, that's
Mark
one of their
Dudla,
names is.
Mark Dudla said if you have lamb's quarters growing in your garden, that your soil is good.
Yeah,
Yeah, and it's
it's-
great. It grows like a giant bush. So it just keeps growing and growing. And you just, yeah, it's really,
yeah.
really very
So
good.
that's what I'm saying. These native plants that are growing on their own. I mean, you don't have to baby them. You just let them grow where they want to grow, and it's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, and I did not plant lamb's quarter. It was a weed that grew up, and
Beautiful.
I'm glad that I
Yes.
got to see it grow and eat from it. The kids really, everybody really enjoyed it tonight. Yeah.
So
Great.
Frankie
Joe,
was
the
asking.
the poke, the
Oh, sorry.
poke that you eat, the poke, I know you're eating it when it's young. Are you cooking it a couple of times? How are you preparing that?
In the beginning, I boil it once, what they call to get the red out. And you can go, I explain how to do that I have some YouTube videos called Joe's Garden Survival Foods or something like that. And it's talking about eating poke and the poke, and I'm showing you picking it and everything, all that. So I just boil it once. Some people say boil it twice, but I'm not scared of it. And I actually think that it's good medicine for you. It's actually a medicine, a cancer medicine. Poke
Yeah.
root is.
Yeah,
But
they use it for the lymphatic system. They use it for the lymphatic system too.
But it's something that needs to be respected for sure.
Totally.
But when I like to eat it in the spring when it comes up, and it's for me in some ways it hits the same spot that asparagus does, where it has this texture, this kind of real thick texture, and it depends on how much you cook it. That's the reason why I don't like to boil it.
There's your page, right, Joe?
Yeah.
There we go. Joe's Garden Survival Foods Tips for These Times. Thank you, Joe.
Yes, and so it talks about a lot of different things. With my pumpkins, that's another thing. I'm a pumpkin pie missionary. Last season, I cooked and gave away 40 pies.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we enjoyed. You came over our house. We got to have a pumpkin pie or two.
Yeah, I mean,
That was
it's
amazing.
pumpkins is one of the plants that really gives a lot, or
Yeah.
it does. It likes our place. What do you
Yeah.
call it? The corcubids, whatever.
Yeah, and even one pumpkin. One year I made out of one pumpkin. I think I made 2 pumpkin pies, a couple
Yeah.
jars of pumpkin butter, some pumpkin bread, and it just kept. There's so much that you can get out of it, right?
Oh yeah, it is an amazing thing. I've got to where, so one of the things that's really happening in my garden now is Trombosinos, Trombosino Squash. So one of the things with beginning gardeners, they'll want to grow a summer squash, and they'll have like the yellow crookneck or the regular straight yellow squash or the zucchini. And one of the things that happens, the plant is growing along there, and it's just like once a squash plant kicks in there, it is amazing. You know, they just like wow, you know. And so it's like, oh boy, I'm going to be getting squash now. But then all of a sudden, in a couple of days, it could be possibly wilted. It's like, well, what happened? And so there's these things called the vine borers, and they get in the vines, and we'll do that. And so this Trombosino squash has a really tough vine. It happens there at the zone where the root of the plant meets the ground. And that's where a lot of pests like to come in, and different diseases right there at the ground level. And so this is tough. It doesn't get bothered by vine borers, the Trombosino squash. And so that's also on my Facebook page, covering my Trombosino squash, because it's just, they're so vibrant right now. It came up in compost, on the edge of the compost. Volunteers, I love working with volunteers, because it's like they come up when they want, where they want. And if they can be worked with where that is, I leave them, you know, because I just think that there's an intelligence to the plant people that we don't give them credit to sometimes.
I can't put my wheelbarrow down one of my walkways because there's a sunflower coming up right in the middle of it, and I had to let it grow. It's now about 4 feet high.
There you go. Yeah, there they are, the Trombosino squashes.
They're beautiful.
And so what's great about Trombosinos as well, because you can eat those, like this little small one that's down in the bottom right, you can cut that up. And so, you know, a lot of squashes, like you can cook them. Squashes love to be cooked with onions and with salt and pepper. It's just a simple thing, but you can put some butter in there, and that pulls in that beautiful salty oniony stuff into those green ones like this. Wow, Zen, you're on it, girl. So it's really great that way, but then you can let it harden off. It can be like a winter squash.
Now we're talking about the squash because this is one of your favorite plants, but is this something you can plant in the fall, or is this something?
No.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry.
We digress. That's okay. I just want to check in. We can all put the Trombosino squash on our list for spring. You know, we'll order.
Yeah, and you don't need very many, because if they're happy, they'll take over the universe.
Okay.
Okay. All righty. So
fall
gardens.
What can we plant? What seed should we have now to start planting now, right? And can we talk about the ones that we plant indoors now, and then later on, maybe wait a little bit later for the outdoors direct sow?
Yeah, well, I just do mine. I don't even do it. I do it in my hoop house. And what I do is I do it directly in the ground. I showed Bill how to do this, to where you just make a little place, make sure that it's really nice and granular soil. And you can do it either by rows, or you can just kind of broadcast it over that area. And you make a little seed bed. And I like to do it in the ground, because that way, you don't have to be concerned about it drying out, because in the hoop house, it can get pretty hot pretty quickly and can dry things out. So it doesn't take quite as much maintenance. But you can use your trays, use a tray that's got some holes in there, and put it to where it's maybe 1 inch to 1.5 inches or 2 inches thick, and put it in there like that. You could put it in under a grow light and start it that way. The advantage of that is that you can be much cleaner, and you can have the starter soil, which will be sterilized as well, that won't have any kind of weed seeds or diseases that are in there. So that way you can know. One of the things by starting seeds inside, there's this stuff called, it's a fungus they call damping off. And so and it also affects the seedlings right there what we were talking about earlier, right there where the soil meets the root of the stem of the root or stem of the plants coming out of the soil. That's what it'll hit it there, and it'll be withered up, and then the plant will just. But
So
if you have good
you're
soil,
likely to be more successful with most seeds by starting them in sterile starter soil. There's a difference. A lot of people don't know this. There's starter soil and then there's regular potting soil. It's different
Yes.
from potting soil, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So then I wait, and the reason why you start now is so they can be up and be, getting to where you can either do two things. Once they come up and they're a couple inches high and they're starting to seem a little bit sturdier. So then you can take them and put them in containers, larger containers, to where then you can transfer those from those containers into your garden, or you can just pull it right straight out and plant it where you want it. It depends, or you can let the plants get a little bit older, and then they'll be hardened off more. But when they're in those stages, for me in my hoop houses, that's the reason why I was talking about keeping the BT handy, was because those pretty little butterflies, the little yellow ones or the kind of white ones, they come around, those are cabbage loopers. And those cabbage looper caterpillars, especially like a seed bed where you have a high concentration of plants, they can come in there and just do a number on all those plants quickly if you're not paying attention. And so, just make a practice of giving a little swipe with the BT, and that way your
Do you
plants
spray it on, or is it a sprinkler? What
It's a spray. It's a spray that's
Okay.
in water. Yeah. And so so I'd try to have the seedlings up and get them planted. You want to have those planted in the ground while it's still somewhat warm and we still have a little bit length to the days, because you want them to get up and get maybe 8 or 10, 12 inches high, where they're good and solid plants, and they're growing when time it starts to cool off. Because when it starts to cool off, then the growth and the length of the day and the growth will way slow down. You'll still have them there. And so for me, I can have collards here up until January or February. But what happens is that when we start to get the nights where it gets down to 10 degrees, then the plants, they'll wilt, but they can recover. But if it's 10 degrees and 10 degrees and 10 degrees, then they just melt. But in the hoop houses, they do great. So that just gives me the edge that I need. And so you can direct seed winter lettuces. I have a lettuce. I think I might have given you some of the seed. I call it my famous mallard branch lettuce seed. It's like a black seeded Simpson. And the different ones, I have a radish, a red salad radish plant that seems fine with cold weather. Different mustards can give you, so with all these things, you can have it to where you can have a fresh salad all winter long, which is just, that's the life there.
It
You can
is.
eat good green food all winter long. You'll be vibrant and healthy and jamming on life.
Now I got to try for the first time with you a really good green called it's called Kamahachida, I think.
Yes, Kamahachida.
Is that a mustard?
Yes.
Mustard?
It is. I'm gonna.
Yes, it's Asian mustard, but this particular one is really spicy. It's got a kick to it. Our friend Cece makes this kind of pesto stuff out of it, which is just killer. She purees it with cashews and different things. Oh, it's snappy.
Ooh, with
It's really great.
cashews. I didn't think of that.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna show a picture of it. Let me know if this is the one that the seeds that you got. I'm sure you probably only bought it once and then you saved your seeds or something, but this one.
Yeah, and it's and what is one of the things that's fun about when you save seeds, that then those things develop their own character. And so the Kamahachida that I have is it's then that thing where they call Savoy. I don't know if you know Savoy. It's where it gets wrinkly.
Like Savoy spinach?
Yep.
Yeah, it's just, I think that's a term that just describes that wrinkliness.
Yeah, Savoy. Okay.
Yeah, and so the Savoy Kamahachida is what I have, and so I've got some of those seeds, and I'm gonna go in and find those, and if I have some, I'll share some of those with you, Zen. And it's another one. So with like that and all these different things, they just give so much aliveness to your salads. You know, once you have stuff like that, you'll never want to have lettuce again, or you still have lettuce, but you know.
Yeah, I was surprised you just chopped it up and put it in salad along with a bunch of the other greens. You didn't. I'm used to greens like that, to cooking them, but they just add so much flavor to the salad. It's like you can't eat enough of it. So great. I just wanted to show some different kinds of cauliflowers. That Baker Creek has. I mean, you can get purple ones. You can get this Romanesco.
I have a whole flat of this green Macerata cauliflower in the basement right now that I'm getting ready to plant outside. I have not had any luck. I had not had any luck with it as a spring planting. I'm hoping to have luck for fall.
Yeah, it's those darn little moths, those little butterflies that get to mine every time. So I'm trying to get got some flowers.
So have you one of those, like a little small hand sprayer? They have a lot of different versions, and then get some BT in it, and just make a practice about, when you go out and visit, just to give them a little squirt of that.
Okay, how much BT do you put in with how much water?
It gives you,
it tells you?
It gives you instructions on the
all right.
container.
I know that Safer makes a BT spray, and I have that in my greenhouse. You can always use a floating row cover.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
do you want to bring up a picture of a floating row cover? You want to see if you can?
But yeah, those little moths, you see those little yellow moths and white moths flying around.
Oh, I have them all over.
Yeah. Yeah. They're not so nice. Yeah.
Everybody
okay, so let me recap what you've said so far. So collards, different kinds of lettuce, cauliflower. I heard radish in there somewhere, though you can talk about it too much, but radishes and mustards, mustard greens. Anything else?
Turnips, kale, rape.
Turnips, kale, and what?
Rape. You know rape?
No.
Rape seed is actually what where canola oil comes from.
Oh, okay.
But, it's a type of mustard.
Okay.
Kind of plant. It's more of a smooth leaf. But you did that. I don't know what that, you don't like rape?
Oh,
yeah, canola oil is not really very good for you.
Oh yeah. Oh no, I was just using
rape.
that. Yeah, but the plant is really great. It's good.
The greens. He's talking about eating the greens, not making canola oil.
Eating the greens. Yeah. The rape and kale and rape and turnips. And now's a good time. Actually, probably July would be the best time to put in turnip seeds. And if you've,
and rutabaga.
I did something right. I planted turnips in July. That's good. Okay.
Mine were getting attacked by something, so I just sprayed some Pyganic. It's an organic spray, and hopefully they'll come back. But
yeah, so that's where the fall and winter gardens are so much fun, because you're once it starts to get cooler, you don't have to worry about the pests so much, and it's up and going, and you just You know, a lot of these plants, once it starts to cool off, you'll see they love coolness and they'll just wake up.
That's great. Okay, so when you, if we plant a flat, like Anne just mentioned she did, of say, you can also plant broccoli, right, and Brussels sprouts at this time?
Yes. Now, Brussels sprouts is a whole, I haven't really grown, I've grown Brussels sprouts once. And yeah, you want to start those in the spring.
Oh, the Brussels
because
sprouts?
they
Okay.
need a longer growing time. Brussels sprouts
Okay.
do.
That's why you can plant bush beans now too, but you can't do pole beans. Because pole beans take too long.
Right,
My
pole
pole
beans.
beans are just now starting
Yeah.
to produce.
And you
But
can do
now-
peas too, right? Some peas, some kinds of peas?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
The English peas,
Mhm.
you know, I'd wait a little while, let it cool off a little bit more
Yeah.
for the English peas, but
Oh, I already planted mine.
no, that'd be good.
You're
They'll
cooler.
do
You're
fine.
up north, and so you've got a cooler season. So when you plant a flat, let's just say you plant a flat of some peas you want to direct sow and it'll stay on the package. You don't want to plant them
Yeah.
inside ahead of time. But some peas you can, or say broccoli or whatever, you can plant inside and, you know, sprout them ahead of time. When do you want to plant them outside? Like when do you want to have the weather cool down enough so that those crops go out into the soil?
Well, I wouldn't be dependent upon it cooling off outside. I would just let the plant tell me, because once the plant gets up and so big, then it'll want more room and more space.
Okay, and that's when you see like a second set of leaves, right? Is when they,
Yeah,
you can tell-
or maybe the third, yeah.
really,
And
okay.
once the stem starts to get thickness to it. But I wouldn't start peas in a seed tray. I would
Oh,
direct
okay.
peas, you want to put those directly in the ground,
Okay, all right, I will
because
do that.
that's been my experience. There's, oh, she's got them there.
Yeah, this
Um,
is Baker Creek Rober cauliflower that I started in the basement.
Beautiful.
Nice.
So this is getting ready to go
Nice.
outside, but it's so easy to do.
But you know, our weather's changing, seasons are changing. It's hard to know what's going to happen, but I think can be warmer in the wintertime than it has been. You know, we've shifted from, I think, a zone 6 to a zone 7 now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's, yeah,
I
definitely.
think Mark Doodla said we were 2 weeks behind or something.
But this
Yeah.
was last spring. Yeah, last spring he said they were and for as far as warmth goes, and definitely Oregon and Washington areas, they got a lot of rain. It was much colder than
Yeah.
it usually was. So it's really depends on the region. And
Yeah.
even in microclimates where we are, you know, Joe, it could be pouring buckets, cats and dogs over by you, but we might not
Oh,
have
yeah.
any rain for days. It's just like, it just really depends on where the clouds go.
Yes. Yes, it's true. And you know, the hoop houses, that's where I'm going to my hoop houses, because hoop houses can really help with just giving you that edge of, if there's a cold snap that's coming in, then you can, but hoop houses require some management for opening and closing doors, because they can get really hot.
Yeah, so you've
And-
got to be able to go out there every day and cool it off if it's too
Yeah.
hot. Yeah, yeah. You can't
So
just.
hopefully it'll be closer to your house to where it's not a big deal to go out and visit it, you know. And for me, I mean, I visit my garden numerous times a day,
Mhm.
because it's just, and especially in the morning. Morning's fun because it's like Christmas, you know.
Yeah, it is. Every morning you go out there. It's so great,
like,
isn't it? And you just
"What is
gather up
this
some
one doing?"
greens. Yeah.
And squash plants, you know, they're so prolific sometimes that they'll say, "Oh, there's some."
This was hiding under a leaf yesterday. So
Yeah.
I was texting Zen going, what am I gonna do with it? She's telling me all these different things I can do with it, because before I just got tired and I grated it and threw them in freezer bags and
Well, there you go.
made zucchini bread later on.
It's great. That's a good idea. So you can grate it and freeze it. So you don't have to blanch it or anything, right? You just freeze it raw.
Yes.
That's great. So that's a good tip for people. You can also just throw your tomatoes directly in the freezer whole, in a
Pour
bag,
them.
in a bag. Yep. And put them in a bag. Yep. Or you
So
can
another plant for your list would be lettuces, all your salads.
Yep.
So many of these plants you'll see on the packages, or if you look through your seed catalogs, they'll say that different plants will like it, cooler plants like peas or lettuces.
Yeah.
But turnips are a great thing. I really love turnips, turnips
And what about parsnips? Is it too late for parsnips?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, I didn't do those.
I just started carrots and the tops are now probably about 6 inches high. So
Oh,
yeah, mine too.
my parsnips never came up. Maybe it was the seed, but the radishes, I don't know. They didn't do well at all because I think somebody said they have flea beetles or.
Oh, yeah.
So they said that some people said that they'll plant radishes as a trap crop.
As a trap crop to
So
trap.
so I decided to leave it where it is.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Joe, for being on. I really appreciate
Oh,
it.
yeah.
There's so many other questions we want to ask, but we booked you for a half an hour, so we appreciate your time.
Okay. Well, thanks, Sid. And
Thank
So
you.
wait, Joe, before you leave, Sherry just said she has a volunteer squash plant. It has lots of male flowers, but no squash. Why?
Well, that the squash plants have male flowers and female flowers. They have
Right.
both of those. And so when you can tell that it'll be a female when it has the little squash or the little fruit that has the bloom bud on the end of it.
And the males have like a long stem.
Yes, it comes more off the stem of the plant further down. And the female plants or females will be right on the end usually. So that's where you want to have plenty of pollinator activity too, because they need to go between the male plants and those female plants. But then you can tell when one's gotten fertilized, because that bloom will drop off and you'll see it, and then they'll make those fruits very quickly. So
Yeah, I kind of had the same problem, Sherry. So, but now I'm starting to see some fruit coming. So I guess you just have to have patience. And I have 3 beehives in my garden, so I have plenty of pollinators.
Wow. Yeah, I had some cucumbers this year and they were growing really good, but they were a little yellow. And then I had one that came up somewhere else and it was greener. And so it's like, well, that's getting the nutrients that it needs, and it is making much more. So it could be a nutrient issue.
Nutrients.
How do you decide what zucchini flowers to harvest, so you still continue to get zucchini? Because I thought it would be the male flower, but now you said leave both of them. So you know how people eat the zucchini flowers? Well, the Italians do.
You can eat the male flowers. Yeah, they make a little fritter.
Yeah.
That you can stuff inside there.
But if you take off the male flowers, will it allow the female flower to be pollinated?
Right.
Well, there needs to be, when that female flower opens up, it needs to have some male flowers around to where the pollinators can visit both flowers.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, that's your
Does
answer.
it have to be on the same plant? Can it be a plant?
No, I don't think
another
so.
plant?
It can be on another plant. I actually had some, I have this one summer squash species that I think it's crossed with the Trombosino. And so it's got a really tough vine, but it still makes kind of a summer squash. It's not the classic summer squash that people know, but I'll share some of those seeds with you, Zen.
Yay, I'm so lucky.
It's tough. I mean, I admire the plants when they can hang in there.
Yeah, and they're sturdy. Yeah, it's a good idea to get the sturdy plants. It's so great. Yeah,
Well,
Danielle was
I
saying this is amazing information. She had no idea that squash.
I really encourage you
Yeah,
all to just keep up your gardening. I mean, I think that's how we're going to change the world. If you ask me, is through gardening.
Yeah, we are.
Well,
Thank you so much,
Frankie
Joe.
was actually talking about spacing instructions on the package, and I always plant closer than they say. But this year I planted my tomato plants a foot apart, and I was going to be so diligent, and it's a jungle. I literally have to climb over stuff now because I wasn't very good at pruning. But next year, gardening's a learning experience. We never
It
stop.
really is. It really is.
But I've
All the
said I have
time.
about 80. I have about 80 tomato plants, so it's interesting.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, I made your tomato recipe. And so everybody should go to the recipe page on Neighborhood Food Network and try her recipe for, let's see, let me open it up here. For the roasted tomatoes sauce. It's totally delicious. Mine was probably a little different than hers because I added yellow pear tomatoes. So it was an orange, it was like a peachy colored sauce. It was beautiful. I'm so sorry I didn't take a picture before we ate it. But you just throw the tomatoes on the tray like this, roast them up.
Yeah, with a little olive oil, roast them, and then pour with the juice and everything right into the pot with the onions. And I have another picture that I took that I'll add of the actual Dutch oven with the onions and the garlic in there, but super easy, you guys. And
Yeah.
it's so good. I mean, when you crack it open in February,
Yeah,
it just
very
takes you back
delicious.
to your fresh veggies in the garden.
Oh, and one we cannot forget to mention this fall garden. My favorite is garlic. It's not, you don't plant it now, though. You plant it in November, right, Joe? November,
Yes.
something like that.
Yeah.
And it's so easy, guys. You just get this organic garlic. You can get it from the grocery store, break it up, put it in the ground, and wait till next spring, early summer. You'll get all these beautiful bulbs of garlic.
Yeah, and the only thing I did,
much garlic.
it's pretty much like set it and forget it. But the only thing that I did was I did cover it up with a rope, some rime, just to keep the squirrels from coming in and digging up my bulbs. But other than that, then in the spring, when I see the green up under the rime, I take it off and you're done. So super easy plant to grow.
And I just wanted to say that I just started planting arugula.
Oh, yes.
And arugula is one of my favorite greens because they're so peppery. And I just planted the seeds like a week ago, and it's growing. So that's arugula.
And let it go to flower. Let it go to flower because the flowers are peppery too, and they're really beautiful in salad. Yeah.
It's another one that's just gives salad so much zing and life to it. It's just, and arugula is really good for seeding itself. And so that's where I'll have little arugula volunteers come up out in the garden, and I just let those grow too. My wife finds them. She gets them, goes and finds all the little volunteer plants. But
I put some arugula with yellow pear tomatoes on my pizza the other night. It was so delicious.
Baby.
Well, I have arugula. One of my traditions is arugula with feta cheese and watermelon, and it's sprinkled with lime.
Watermelon.
Wow.
Delicious. And Vidalia onions.
We should have this call before dinner, not after, because we're all going to be eating again after this.
Well, thanks,
Some of
Cindy.
us haven't eaten yet. It's
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
in California. I'm really hungry now.
Well, and speaking of Carol, maybe Carol could talk a little bit about what she's doing in her neighborhood.
Yes, that's why we asked Carol to come on. Joe, you're more than welcome to go if you want to go. But now we're going to segue into the part where we talk about the Neighborhood Food Network and how. Yes, thank you, Joe. Thank you so much for being with us.
You're quite welcome. If there's anything that I know something about, I'm happy to share and help you. And just happy gardening.
And
we love that about you. And
Thank you, Joe.
We also love that you talk about these plants like they're people, like they have character, and they talk.
They do. They do.
I talk to my plants all the time.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Joe. Thanks for being with us. Okay. All right, great. Thank you. Okay, so Carol, thank you, Joe. We asked Carol to be on because she has an interesting story about the Neighborhood Food Network. So this is really like a pilot program, right? We don't know where this is going to go. We're learning, we're using this year before we really, launch it out there to learn. And Carol has some information about how she launched the Neighborhood Food Network in her area. Can you tell us a little bit about that, Carol?
Sure. Well, I live in Southern California where it's really easy to grow food, number one.
Mhm.
And I live in a neighborhood that the minimum size property is 5 acres. So that's my caveat, that we do have a lot of people here that grow food. But I decided, when Zen was talking about the Neighborhood Food Network, that I would start it in my neighborhood. And what I did is I created a Facebook page. Our area is known as the Plateau, so I named it the Plateau Neighborhood Food Network. And I started it, what's it been, 3.5 weeks, something like that. And we have 47 people involved in it. So it is so exciting. People are trading, people are posting their pictures, how they're preserving their food, how they're canning, how an example might be, wow, I have all these apple trees. I have no time to pick them. Come over and pick them, take what you want. And then another lady said she's growing raspberries and she had tons of plants. And she said, I will trade you coming over and helping clean up the area, doing a little weeding and stuff. And if you spend a half hour of time, I'll give you a raspberry bush. So we're getting really creative with what we're doing up here. And I love that people are posting recipe because I'm a total foodie. Today, speaking of squash, I spent most of the day cooking. I made 10 quarts of patty pan squash soup to freeze. I made tons of basil and pesto, and I made applesauce. So, but we're all doing this. It's pretty cool. And every single person that has joined has said, what an amazing idea. This needs to be done all over the US or all over the world. So, people are really excited about it. So that's just what we're doing.
That is so awesome. I love it that you're sharing and you're connecting. So many of these neighbors, when you go to their house to pick apples or raspberries, you've never met them before, right?
Right. I went to this one woman's house named Brenda, and she just moved here like a year ago. And she said, I don't even know how to take care of these trees, but I'm going to learn. And I went with a friend of mine, Teresa, who knows a lot about trees. So she gave her some information on fruit trees and stuff. So it's just a great way to connect with your community, with the bonus of you get a lot of different foods that you may not be able to grow. So it's really awesome.
Or afford right now. I mean, raspberries.
Yeah.
Raspberries can be very expensive. Apples can be good gracious, apples are so expensive in some areas.
Yes.
So it's wonderful that you're doing this. My heart is so full. Carol is the founder of Food Integrity Now. She's been working on the food area, the whole food industry and food debacle mess for longer than I have. And she's interviewed hundreds of people in the food movement. And you have heard a lot of bad news about the food supply over these years. And this has my heart be so full because it's such good news. It's happening regardless of what's going on in the world, right? There could be bad news coming in all the time. But if you're there connecting with a neighbor, and you don't care if that person's a Democrat or a Republican, do you?
No.
You're there connecting around food. You don't care if they're vaccinated or unvaccinated or whatever. You're connecting through food. And that is exactly what Joe said earlier. He thinks that's what's going to basically save our country. I agree. And Winona Hotter of Food and Water Watch, she's another one that's been around for a very long time, with her eye on the food supply. She says she believes we can make our democracy stronger and our country stronger through food.
Right.
And
I
so
agree. I agree.
this is a great
People get
example.
excited about food. Wednesday, I'm going to pick avocados. Saturday, I'm going to pick peaches. And there's something Sunday, I forget. And this isn't like a whole day deal. You know, you go
Yeah.
for an hour or so, and it's just so fun. And it's causing me to get more creative with, okay, now I have all this food. I need to look up some new recipes. I need to learn how to be a better canner. You know, maybe I can dry this, and, you know, it just, you get more creative.
Yeah, you do. So wonderful. I really encourage everybody to do a couple of things. One is put a dehydrator on your wish list. And my mom gave that to me for my birthday. It was one of the best birthday gifts she's ever given me. I'm dehydrating something practically every day. I've got herbs I'm dehydrating for teas. I just dehydrated some comfrey, which is wonderful for aches and pains and bruises. You know, and some sage, you know, for flavor, and some dill, and, you know, like just different, almost every day I'm dehydrating something. I do it at night, so the noise, it doesn't make too much noise. And then of course, canning, you can get into, oh, let's bring up, Anne's got a page on canning. I'll bring that up. Hang on a second. But, yeah, so does anybody have any questions for Carol while I bring this up? Does anybody have questions for Carol about what's going on with her?
Yeah, I want to know what you're going to do with all the avocados.
Eat them. Did you know you can take avocados, take the pit out, just mash them a little bit, put them in a bag, and put them in the freezer. They freeze beautifully.
They
And
sell
then-
those at Costco. They sell cubed avocado at Costco.
Yeah.
Really?
So
yeah,
I have a whole freezer full of avocados that are going to last me when they're not in season. I'll pull it out. I'll make some guacamole, or I'll throw it in my smoothie. And
That's great to know.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
not
Yeah,
mushy when you
I've
take it out of the
heard-
freezer.
I heard that
Pardon?
you could freeze them, and one year I made the terrible mistake of I bought $40 worth of avocados from two farmers, and I just took the avocados and put them in the freezer before they were even ripe, and it just ruined.
Oh, no.
I
It
know.
gotta be right.
You gotta, so don't try to figure it out yourself, folks. It's a big
Look it
mess.
up.
Just learn from somebody else. That's why we're holding these calls, because I've made way too many of those kinds of expensive mistakes. Yeah, wait till they're ripe, right, Carol? Wait till they're ripe.
Yeah.
Take the seed out, mash them up, and put them in ice cube trays or just in a freezer bag and put it in
Yeah,
the
that's what
freezer.
I just put them in a freezer bag, and some I put single, just one in there, so I could like throw it in a smoothie, and others I put 3 in, so I could make guacamole to share with people. So
Yeah.
it's pretty easy to do.
Yeah, Chris makes a good point, wondering if neighbors will occasionally allow some homeschool groups to come in and learn about their gardens there. I bet they would if somebody asked them,
Yes.
you know, just.
We have a
make
lot
the
of
request.
we have a lot of homesteaders in our group too. Well, not a lot, maybe 5 or 6, who homeschool, and, you know, they're really taking it to the next level. So
Yeah.
we would like to start a little bit of like a tour up here for homesteaders, you know, so people want to learn. We had a lot of people move into our area from Orange County and LA, first time people with, you know, came from suburbia to out here.
Mhm,
And there's a lot of mistakes being made, but we know that's how you learn.
mhm.
But I think, you know, because the property I live on, the owner, they've been homesteading for 8 years.
Mm,
So they know a lot. So
You've gone through a few bumps by then.
a
For
few
sure.
bumps.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Thank you so much, Carol, for sharing that. Of course, if anybody else has any other questions, that's great. I'm just going to screen share so I don't forget that Anne has started a page on, now keep in mind, this is all in progress. So when you click on some of these, you may not get much information yet, but the canning one, she has put some information on here, and, you know, different types of canning, different sources, water bath canning, pressure canning.
So yes, and I've added some links like to some trusted websites instead of me trying to write an article.
Mhm.
Trying to rewrite something that somebody knows much more than me. I'm putting in some links. And one of the things I found that is very important is that you always use a trusted recipe, and you always do a little research. I know a lot of people are, water bath canning is a great entryway into canning tomatoes because they're more acidic. And so as more of acidic type vegetables, you can water bath can. The goal is to kill off any of the botulism spores or any of the bacteria. Foods that have a higher pH, they have to be pressure canned because the heat can get a lot hotter. Now, there's certain things that you should never can, even you might find recipes for them, but like dairy products, pumpkin puree, you find that in the store. They do not recommend you try to do pumpkin puree at home because it's too dense and the temperature will not get hot enough, even pressure canning. The industrial pressure canners can get much harder than a home canner. So just do a lot of research, but I'm telling you, right now, my plum tomatoes are starting to come in. I'm coring them and then I'm throwing them in a big bag in the freezer. And then later on this fall, I'm going to be making massive amounts of stewed tomatoes, tomato sauce to put in the can. And see this picture, if you scroll down a little, this is homesteaders, a picture from, this is kind of the goal for us here.
That's the goal, folks, right there, a pantry like grandma's.
So, and just make sure you date everything. And I have to tell you, they usually will say, oh, is this will last for, 12 months. Well, I just popped open a can of tomato sauce from 2020 and I popped it open and smelled it and it smelled like fresh tomatoes. Just make sure the seal's still intact, and it's just it's a lot of fun. And I made a salad last night, and I'm sending Zen pictures of my garden. I had this beautiful green pepper, and Zen sent me a picture which I didn't get up on the website yet. She sent me a picture of the prices at the store. 2 peppers for $5.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, well, they're organic, but still, yeah, it's the
So
prices
are
are
mine.
nuts. Yeah. Yeah, it's
Hey,
very
Ann, I
expensive.
just wanted to say something about your roasted tomato recipe. I did a very similar thing, only I made mine into a salsa. I roasted jalapenos and those tomatoes and onions and everything, and then added a little cilantro and lime. And
I think you should send me a recipe.
Yeah,
Okay,
Carol.
I'll send
And
you
some pictures.
Okay, I know some better ones than the canning ones I sent you. It was an afterthought, but anyway, yes, I will, because it was delicious.
See, that's awesome. And I have about 12 jalapeno plants that are starting to produce like mad.
Perfect thing. Perfect
And I
thing.
tried to make hot sauce last year. I took all my peppers that I left over and threw them all into a pot and cooked them down. I can't even put a drop on my tongue. It's so hot. So I
Yeah.
do that
Well,
again.
I'll send you that recipe because I use yellow tomatoes for it. Those bell ones that are so sweet.
The yellow pears.
The yellow pear ones, because we had a plethora of them, and I thought, what am I going to do? And then, who doesn't like salsa? It's just, and you can make it as hot or not as hot as you want. Add the thing that people probably know is that when you put your jalapeno on there, you take the seeds out first, and take the vein and all that stuff out. Otherwise, they're going to be.
And wear gloves. I made that mistake.
And wear gloves so you don't. But
and then scratch my eye, and it wasn't fun.
Yeah, it doesn't take much jalapeno. It really doesn't. So it's really delicious. I have it on my eggs all the time. I love that on eggs for.
Oh, that is great in the morning. Yeah, little spice in the morning.
Oh my God! So
and do you can it then? Do you can it or just freeze it? Or do you
I froze it because I don't have a ton of, well, actually, I probably have more cupboard space than freezer space. I'm just learning to can. So.
Okay.
We're learning right with you. I just want to share this website you talked about, salsa. A lot of people don't know this. I didn't know this till just recently. You can ferment salsa too.
Yes.
So it becomes a super, micro biota, well, good bacteria rich fermented jalapenos to spice up your Mexican dishes. cultured salsa is one of the easiest way to get your family to try cultured foods, right? If they think, oh, I don't like fermented foods or cultured foods, this is one of the best ways. So just a tip, an idea. We love this website. I'd love to have this woman on as a guest sometime too.
She's fantastic, and I've ordered some things off of this site because I traded for some goat's milk, and I'm going to try my hand in making goat cheese.
Yay! You're gonna love it. It's so easy, Carol. I mean,
I know what, I ordered a culture. I think it was this site.
Yeah.
Do they sell culture?
Well, here's the thing. You don't need a culture to make goat cheese. You make goat cheese just with a third of a cup of lemon. You heat it up first until it's warm enough so that it's warm on your wrist. And then you set it aside and you add in, I think it's a third or a half a cup. I think maybe a third cup of lemon juice and 1 tablespoon of vinegar. That's it. And you let it sit for an hour and then you hang it up in the bag, the goat cheese bag, over a bowl, and you let it drip. And then once you let it drip for about an hour, could be 2, if you get busy, whatever, it's fine. And then you mix in the cheese salt, which is important to get cheese salt, I think, because the taste is just much stronger. But you mix in cheese salt. It's supposed to be 1% of the total weight, but I've just been guessing because I don't weigh things. And you just mix in the cheese salt, and then, you mix in the cheese salt before you let it hang. Okay, and then you let it hang for an hour or 2 with the salt mixed in already. And then you're done. So
and you can add your herbs or whatever.
Yep, you can add the herbs. You can make it sweet or savory. So I can milk the goats in the morning. I have 2 goats. I milk them. It takes about 15, 20 minutes. I get almost a quart. Sometimes it's a half a quart. Just sort of depends on some other issues. And but I can make goat cheese about every other day now. And I can milk them in the morning and have goat cheese by lunch.
That's exciting.
It's
okay,
exciting.
Thank you.
And that's just the regular goat cheese, though. I don't know about feta or mozzarella. I'm guessing those might take longer because they're more firm. So, but yeah, it's really, really good. Let's see. Frankie's asking, are yellow tomatoes a higher pH? They're sweeter, right?
They're sweeter and they're less acidic.
Okay.
So yeah, that would be a higher pH.
Yeah. Higher pH, yeah.
So
yeah.
I wasn't a fan. I had tons of yellow pears last year and they didn't taste like anything. So I just used them for volume in my sauces. But Zen said that hers are fantastic. So
I mean, they're not as flavorful as my beefsteak heirloom tomatoes that just came in that are to die for. But the yellow tomatoes, I still think that they're sweet and tasty. They're kind of tangy even. Yeah.
Did I ever send you Rose de Burn seeds?
I don't think so.
Oh.
All right. You mark that down for me? Great. Well, so this has been a great call. I really appreciate everybody being on. Was this useful for you? Yes, I see Lisa smiling. Yes. Useful. Elise. Okay. Anne-Marie. Very good.
And I think we need to talk too about in some future calls about seed saving and seed swapping. I started I saved seed from one of my lettuce plants. I let it go to flower. I had people come over saying, why aren't you pulling that? I'm like, cause I'm saving the seed. I put it in a paper bag and kind of forgot about it. Went down in the basement last winter and I found the bag and I shook it on some soil just to see what it would do. I couldn't believe how many lettuce plants came up. And it was all romaine. It was romaine. It was all romaine lettuce.
Oh, romaine is so good. Oh my gosh, I love it. That's great.
Seed saving is
I just saved
so easy.
Some cilantro seeds, which otherwise known as coriander. Today, you just put them in a paper bag and shake them, and then what I did is I poured them out onto a piece of parchment paper, so I could see them and pick out all the sticks, and then I put them in a colander, like a sieve, and shook it to get all the little bits out, and then I put them into a little jar for coriander.
And my dill heads are going to start producing dill seeds soon.
Mm-hmm.
And my mustard actually, because Joe was talking about it.
I have thousands.
But the mustard plants, they get these huge pods.
Yep. I have thousands of them. Yeah, we should start just swapping. Like, we should get little bags and everybody just make up a whole bunch of little bags of them. And then,
take some brown paper bags out to your garden.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just kind of put the heads into the bag and cut it off.
Yeah.
And then make sure I have a paper bag in my garden shed that's got a plant in it. I have no idea what it is. So take a marker with you and make sure.
Mark it. Yeah. What is?
And mark it, and then,
because when they go to seed, they kind of all look the same. The lettuce will look the same as the mustard and the spinach, and then you won't know, which doesn't really matter so much to me. It's kind of like, oh, we'll just see what grows, but you know,
So
you might want to know.
this I have never grown before, and I think this is the coolest looking plant ever. Do you know what is in these pods?
No.
Sesame seeds.
What?
I know.
Sesame seeds? I never even thought about where sesame seeds come from. That's a
I
sesame
know. So
plant?
I ordered sesame plants, and I'm gonna probably do an entire bed of them next year.
Yum.
Yeah, but as soon as they started forming, I just sit there and stare at it and go, and I talk to it. I'm like, you are the coolest thing I think I've ever seen.
Oh, that's so cool.
So
You know what would be great? I'm making more work for you, Anne, but start a page on there that people could possibly post that they wanted to trade their seeds.
well, we were talking about doing a seed swap, but we just got to figure out how to get the foundation set up so that it's easy. And also because of this idea that Zen came up with, I was at Goodwill, and for $1.99 I found all these envelopes. So I bought them, and I had seeds to send people seeds.
Oh, that's awesome.
That is so great, Anne. But we should definitely trade though. Like you sign up, it's a trade, it's a swap thing. Yeah. So that you get seeds from other people. And you said that I started this whole thing, Anne, but you really started it because you're the one that sent me your luscious pictures of tomatoes and tempting.
Well, I've sent you a bunch of
and
seeds. In fact, Zen, dragon tongue beans. My dragon tongue beans are coming in like gangbusters, and I sent some to Zen, and she planted them. She sent me a picture. She's like, "What is this?" I go, "Dragon tongue beans."
Yep.
They're like Jared Gettle's like favorite bean at Baker Creek, and they're bush beans, and they are so easy to grow. I just harvested a ton today.
Well, it wasn't easy for
fun.
us because we let the weeds grow in. We have this pasture. Remember the 4,000 square feet I told you that we tilled? Well, the chip drop didn't come it just never came, and we didn't buy enough straw to cover the whole area because it was so big. So where the beans were, it was just bare soil, and grass grew in like gangbusters and crowded out. It rained.
Nature doesn't like bare soil.
What's that?
Mother Nature does not like bare soil.
Oh no, she'll grow it right in. Yeah. So it crowded out the beans. So this is a learning season for us. We have to do something totally different next year. No bare soil, because the grass just grows. It goes just too fast. So yeah, Lisa's saying it's a little overwhelming since we're beginners. Will we have access to the recording for future reference? Yes, of course.
So for people who don't know, these are dragon tongue beans.
They're big. They're beautiful.
They're really cool looking, but when you cook them, the purple goes away. But yeah, this is what I picked this morning.
Yeah.
And they just produce like crazy. And the beans are so much fun. There were a few pods on the plants, and I thought they were a little big. So I just looked at them and said, "You grow up to be big boys, and I'm going to harvest you for seed."
Yep. See, that's the thing. Talk to them like they're living people and beings. Okay. So was it Lisa that said this is hard? You want to know how to get started? So we've got some tips here on the Neighborhood Food Network of how to get started. I know I didn't get Chip Drop, but you might get Chip Drop. It's a very good company. I mean, set up, these landscapers can bring.
If you don't get Chip Drop in your area, call Tree Services, and they'll be more than happy. In fact, I did do Chip Drop. The last time I did Chip Drop, they came in one day. Sometimes it takes a couple weeks, but they came the next day, and then he looked at me and he goes, "Do you need any more?" I said, "Sure, I'll take another load," because you can never have enough wood chips. And I share, any of my neighbors come over, I say, "You need wood chips? Come on over and get them." So every now and then a neighbor comes over with a wheelbarrow, but they're more than happy to go to your house instead of the dump where they have to pay.
Yep. So we have a lot of resources on here for you. We have monthly planning reminders by zone. You definitely want to check this out. You can click on your zone and add monthly reminders for what you need to plant that month. So let's just say, I'll go to, oh wait, is this gonna draw up my Google Calendar? Hang on. I don't want to show the
Well,
world.
yours is probably already in your Google Calendar.
Yeah, it'll probably show. So anyway, you go to your zone and you click on it. Yeah. And then you can add that, add a reminder, and every month on the 1st, it will come up and it'll say, this is the time to plant, beans and peas and squash and whatever. So you'll have a reminder right there in your calendar to remind you of when to plant. So I don't know of anybody else that has that feature. That's something that I just really thought we should have so we can support you. It's 9:36, so we got to get going. My kids are chomping on the bit. We're watching a series together and they're waiting for me to watch it with them. So I got to go, but we have lots of resources for you. And if you want to start the Neighborhood Food Network in your area, go to neighborhoodfoodnetwork.com, sign up to be a host. It's the second link. It's not just for the newsletter. The newsletter, you just get the newsletter, but you got to sign up to be a host. And as far as I know, Baker Creek is still sending out free seed kits to the hosts so that you can give them out when you have a meeting to your neighbors to support them to grow food. And I believe they're giving out the fall seeds for fall gardens now. So you sign up to be a host. But that means you got to have a meeting. It's not just sending you seeds for you to plant for yourself, right? You want to have a meeting, gather your friends together, your neighbors together. You can use our flyers online to download a flyer to pass out to your neighbors. You can put it under their doorstep. You're not supposed to put it in their mailbox, but it's even better if you get to meet them. Have a meeting. It's not too late. It's actually the perfect time to start a fall garden and get to know your neighbors, which is the best part. And then start growing food and sharing food. And your life will never be the same. You will know people that you never would have known otherwise. You will be sharing things. And look how lit up Carol was, right? Wasn't that awesome? Was that inspiring? So inspiring. Yes. Yeah. Or you can also start a Facebook group like Carol did, and you can start connecting people that way. Or you may have another idea of some other way to start it. And if you do, we want to hear about it. Okay. We want you to share it with us and come on the next call and share your adventures in supporting and creating the Neighborhood Food Network. Thank you, everybody. Have a great night.
Thank you,
Great to see you.
Sam.
No,
Good
Oh,
night,
wait a minute.
everyone.
Okay.
Sorry,
Bye.
everybody. Thank you so much.